Hello everybody, my name's Glenn Matchett. I'm Global Head of Talent Marketing for MPC. We're going to be running a webinar this evening for our DMP Academy, which will admit its next intake of students next April. We're broadcasting from London here and also from Montreal. I'm going to pass over to our training manager, Garrett, who's going to, Matt, sorry, who's going to give an intro, and then pass over to Garrett and Alina, who are going to go through a presentation in Montreal. So I hope you enjoy it.
Yeah, this is really exciting, actually. We are talking about our third installment of the DMP Academy. The previous two have been incredibly successful. You know, the first one was a little bit nerve-wracking. We weren't 100% sure if it was the right way to go, and we tried it anyway, and it worked out amazingly well, mostly due to our trainer extraordinaire, Garrett Fry, who put together an incredible 12-week intensive training program for us. And the graduates from those first two Academy sessions have gone on to work on some very, very high-profile shows and produce some amazing work. And it's turned out to be a great way for people to kickstart a career in DMP, which historically has been one of the hardest disciplines in visual effects to get into. And arguably, it's one of the only ones that you still have to break into. Mostly in bigger studios, you can get straight in as an animator or a compositor or a lighter, what have you. DMP, with its really broad base of skills, still requires that you do an extensive number of years of interning and proving yourself before you're allowed anywhere near the DMP. So stay tuned, listen to what Garrett has to say. He's going to give you some very, very explicit guidance on how to tweak your skill set to make yourself attractive to us. Hopefully our offering is attractive to you, and he'll talk you through exactly what we do in the Academy. So Garrett, do you want to take over?
Sure, yeah. So I guess first of all, I'd like to say welcome to everybody, and I hope as we get going, we'll be able to, you guys will feel informed about what the Academy is all about, and if you could just keep track of some questions that you have, and you have the ability to put in questions, and so at the end we're going to want to do like a little Q&A. So go ahead and send those in through the system, and then we will answer some of those at the end. And I guess I'd like to say welcome to, because I know a lot of you guys from the map painting for filmmakers community, so I just want to say welcome. It's super awesome to have you guys here and to be a part of this. So to first, just to kick this off, is to talk about what the Academy is, and Matt kind of touched a little bit on it, is that it is it's the in-house training program, onboarding program for junior artists to work on MPC visual effects shows. So it's a 12 to 14 week paid full-time training program, and then after your graduation, you'll spend 12, you'll finish your contract of 12 months working on MPC visual effects shows. So it's actually a really cool opportunity to get into the film industry, especially for DMP, because Matt was talking about some of the challenges and things that map painters face. So as a part of the DMP Academy, it's a group and one-on-one training. And so there's a group. We usually are doing around 10 artists, and I work with the group, and I work with you one-on-one coaching, and it's for a full 8-hour plus days, and whatever other time you want to sharpen your skills that you are working to improve your skill set. So it's a really great opportunity for me to get to know you, and you get to know me and to learn about the craft. So we try our best to simulate a visual effects environment, and so that means that we're using film quality training materials, that we're working within the MPC pipeline. We're doing rounds and dailies with myself and with the leads and the HOD, the head of the department, and we have master classes with the department leads as well. And then we have tri-weekly performance evaluations, so you can get the feedback that you need in order to succeed within the Academy. So it's a really awesome experience, and it's a lot of fun for myself and it's a lot of hard work, and that's, you know, when the academy students that go through, they say it's a ton of work and it's really hard, but it's super fun at the same time. So, you know, like maybe we can like frame the discussion that we're having here with why is it actually hard to become a DMP artist? And there's a couple of reasons why. And you know, when I'm talking here, I'm talking kind of in generalities, but most math departments are really quite small. And so the smaller departments usually have the harder shots because they have lighting in different departments taking the bulk of the work. And then a lot of times in smaller studios, they go, that shot can't render, or that shot is too hard, or it's a one-off shot. And then they're like, okay, that's a matte painting shot. And those matte painting shots are actually kind of the more difficult shots. So all the work that comes into smaller studios typically are the more difficult shots. And so when they staff those smaller studios, they're looking for mid to senior level artists. And you know, and actually most studios don't have a training program. So you know, and why the Academy works at MPC is not just because we have a training program and it's the Academy. It is because the department is structured in a way that can allow juniors to thrive within the department. So instead of a matte department at MPC, we have an environments department, which means that we're taking on all of the major environments for these shows. And that means that there's a lot of shots that come through the department. So that would be junior level, mid-level, and senior level, and they're all going through. And that means that those artists, the junior, mid, and senior, have, you know, things to do. And like I said, the department is big enough to support juniors. So just to kind of give you an idea, and like I said, these are kind of generalities, but like if you were to compare some of the smaller studios with MPC, that the smaller studios, their department type is a matte department, MPC is environment. The number of shots that that some of the smaller studios will go through is anywhere from 5 to 50 shots. And in MPC Montreal, you're talking about like 1,000+ shots per show. So you know, that would represent, you know, some of the really big shows, and then we have some smaller shows. And then the number of artists in small studios, you'll have 5 to 15, but in MPC Montreal, we've got like, you know, we'll fluctuate, but we'll go between 55 and 85. So that's a ton of artists, and actually, MPC Montreal is one of, if not the biggest environments department in the world. That it is the biggest environments department in the world. So the shot difficulty at smaller studios, they're more difficult, and in Montreal there's a variety, and they have a variety of difficulty, and then the positions, and of course MPC has a training program. So just to kind of tell you a little bit about how the 3D DMP department is structured, because when you talk about digital matte painting or 3D DMP, it's kind of this umbrella term for basically 3 different types of disciplines. So the first one is a matte painter, digital matte painter. Next one is an environment TD, and the next one after that is a matte painting generalist. So that's like a big umbrella term when you're talking about the 3D DMP department, is that you have those 3 disciplines. So we're going to be talking about what those disciplines are. So here we have this like little continuum of matte painting areas of knowledge. On the left-hand side, we have 3D work, so that's like the asset creation part, lighting, look dev, rendering. And then we have 3D projections, that's like setting up camera projections and manipulating geometry. And then right there in the center is the painting design, that is the actual like DMP work. And then just adjacent to that is comp delivery, knowing how to send your things to comp. And then on the other side of that is compositing. So, and anything to do with more advanced compositing techniques. So if you were to say we've got a digital matte painter, and his core skill set is within right there in the center, which is matte painting, and then it kind of gradually goes out. So every map painter absolutely needs to know how to do projections and set up shots. And they need to be able to know how to deliver those to compositing. In environment TD, on the other hand, they have different expectations for environment TD. They will know a lot about camera projections, and they're very, very heavy on 3D work, the asset creation part of it. And then on the other hand, they are really quite skilled in some of the compositing techniques and knowing how to deliver things to comp. And then you have a map painting generalist who is still at his core as a really good painter, but can handle a lot of different types of work. And that's the kind of person that you can just give a shot to, and they can do it from start to finish, and they're doing everything. So like when you go through the 3D DMP Academy, the training is actually to train you to become a map painting generalist. And then after you graduate, you have the opportunity of specializing within an area. So you could go into environment TD, digital map painter, or a map painting generalist. And when you start as a, usually when you get into the department, there's a need for doing more environment TD work. And so you'll graduate, you'll do some environment TD work, and then you'll move yourself forward throughout the department. And you'll have that opportunity to specialize once you get on the floor. This is how the week by week it's set up. And so like the first 3 weeks of the academy, we're working on MPC proprietary like pipeline and DMP and color workflow. So really that's kind of like the Photoshop area is for those first 3 weeks. And then we have a full 3 weeks dedicated to camera projection training. And then the 4 weeks after that is shot work. So that's taking your DMP skills and your projection skills and combining them together to actually work on shots. And then after that, we have a couple of weeks of asset training. And then you can roll onto the floor, and you're with all of the other DMP artists. And you get to work with them and kind of get to know everybody in the department. But usually those last 2 weeks, it's you're working on asset work. So the software that we go through in the academy is Photoshop, Nuke, and Mari. And our expectation is that you have a good understanding of that software before you get in the academy. And we'll talk a little bit about that a little bit later. So the question is who is the 3D DMP Academy for? The Academy is for recent college graduates, junior map painters at smaller studios, and then mid-level artists in other VFX disciplines, so like lighters, environment artists, compositors. And the reason that is the case is because the DMP department is just a bunch of generalists that they kind of do a little bit of everything. And so if you have an expertise in one area, it's really great to kind of bring that expertise in, and it makes for a better, well-rounded department. And then we have artists from related industries. So like if you're coming from games or another related industry, then you would be a good candidate. I would have to say that some of the best candidates are junior map painters from smaller studios and mid-level artists, or if you're able to get any kind of work experience, if that is like roto and prep, or even like a runner studio, is great experience for you, just so you know how a visual effects environment actually runs. So the software knowledge, like we talked about, that's required, we need you to know Photoshop, Nuke, Maya, and Mari. And that software has become much, much more available now to people. And there's actually a lot of resources online on how to get the basic functionality of that software. So If you think about it in this way, if you really know that software pretty well, then in the Academy, we're going to teach you how DMP artists use that software. So if you have been using Photoshop for a long time doing texturing, that's great, and knowing that knowledge is going to help you a lot in the Academy. We're going to take that knowledge and we're going to show you how DMP artists use Photoshop. So yeah, so and then the desirable but not required knowledge is anything, you know, Katana related, ZBrush, Mudbox, Terrigen, SpeedTree, anything like RenderMan or Arnold, and any kind of renderer like that. That shows us that you have a pretty well-rounded skill set. So here's just a couple of quotes from this last Academy group. Excuse me. And this last Academy group, they're very happily working on MPC visual effects shows. And this is what one of the Academy graduates said. She said, "I did not feel like I was in school. It felt like a production the entire time. Intense, very challenging, yet fun at the same time." So here's another Academy graduate. He says that the DMP Academy was adaptable based on a person's existing experience. So I never felt out of my depth or held back. And so that's why, you know, like if you are somebody that has been working at a VFX studio for a while and you want to get into the Academy, that you will be constantly challenged and given new things to help you grow your skill set, and there's not really any cap on what you can learn on the Academy. So if you come in with an existing expertise, then we're going to add to that expertise and we're going to help you grow even more. So but then at the same time, if you're feeling like you have a real strength in one area and you're a bit weak in another area, then we will work with you on the areas that you're weak so that we can bring those up. And another quote is, "The sheer amount of information I soaked up through all the master classes, leads doing rounds, and feedback from dailies is priceless." So right here, I just want you guys to pay attention and to stick around until the very end, because we're going to be going over some tips on how to quickly improve your demo reel. So I want you to pay attention. And there's this kind of thing that happens, and so before we get into talking about how to improve your demo reel, like I want to explain something. Is, you know, like, you know, even myself, when I first got into matte painting, or I wanted to get into matte painting, I would see these movies and I would see these amazing matte painting shots, and I'd be like, that is what I want to do. And so when you start thinking about making a demo reel, you look at those shots and you say, that's what I want to mimic to be on a demo reel, because I know that's what a matte painting shot is, and I'm going to try to do that. Something that people don't realize is those shots that you can tell that are a matte painting, those really big, wide, epic shots, are actually really, really expensive and actually very hard to do. And so when you're looking at those shots, that represents work from senior level artists typically, and they've spent hundreds of hours and there are hundreds of thousands of dollars that have gone into, and it's a huge team that has made the shot. So when you're looking at making your demo reel, that's kind of who you're competing with. If you say, okay, that's my target, and I try to achieve that in my demo reel, you don't have hundreds of thousands of dollars in a team to build anything. And so it's a bit of a paradigm shift to say, I'm gonna actually make my demo reel look like a junior demo reel. And so that's what I'm going to be talking to you about, is what actually a junior demo reel looks like. And a poor senior type demo reel, where if your demo reel is full of these big epic landscapes and shots that are really difficult but poorly executed, that doesn't mean that it is a good junior reel. So you should focus on having a good junior reel, and not a poorly executed senior type reel. So, and if you do have any questions about that, get them in the question box, and we'll try to address those. So these are the kinds of shots that you want to stay away from that represent really expensive shots. So period cities that no longer exist, really extreme like fantasy or sci-fi environments, environments that are too moody and extreme, destroyed city, large cityscapes, and there are listed a couple of reasons why. So like you want to look like a junior. So the things that you can do, which would be great to see on a demo reel, that I actually don't see a lot of when we review demo reels, is that that somebody has taken a photo of a city street or of a landscape, and they paint or clone out some problem areas. Let's say there's cones on the street. You paint those out and you reveal what was behind the cone or a street sign or something like that. And with that kind of exercise, you're showing that you can match the color, the value, the scale, the perspective. You can match the lighting. And so those kinds of skills needs to be we need to be able to see those in a demo reel. And so if you go like with this really crazy fantasy landscape, it's a bit hard sometimes for people to evaluate whether or not you have good integration and plate cleanup, and do you have the eye that you can actually integrate one photo inside of another photo and have it be totally invisible. So like I said, taking a photo and doing plate cleanup and integration, that's a really great way to show us that you know how to paint or clone or manipulate images in a photographic way. So another really great way, and this is something that you can do if you've got a DSLR or something that can take video footage, is that you just go out on a city street somewhere and you take footage of the street, and then all of the movement that's happening is people walking up and down the street, and you decide that you're going to take one of those buildings and you're going to replace, from the second floor and above with a different building. So that could be a photograph that you take, or that could be a CG building that you've modeled and textured and lit and integrated into that. Both of those cases would be really great to have, and would show us, because we've got the building that's in the photo right next to the building that you've added, and we can tell, and you can tell actually, if that has been perfectly executed. And so that's kind of what we're looking for, is that really, really keen eye. And yeah, so we talked about that. Now specifically, if we're going to talk about what to put on your demo reel, we talked about 2D photo cleanup, and we talked about that. And this is 2D photo collage map painting. So in addition to some of the cleanup tasks, what you can do is you can create a photo collage of a bunch of different photos, combine those together to make a new image. And a couple of tips on that when you're talking about map painting photo collage, which is really the base of all map painting work, is this photo collage method, is that you use the least amount of photos that you can while starting out. So if you're doing this photo collage map painting and you start out with 20 different photos, you're going to have to take each one of those photos and manipulate them so that it all matches and they're all working together. So that's a pretty difficult task for somebody starting out. So what you would do is you would maybe go out, shoot your own photography, and then start blending things together. If you go out on the same day in the same location and you shoot a bunch of things, then already those photos are kind of matching, and so it kind of helps you to be able to develop that that keen eye without going, jumping like on the deep end on a fantasy landscape. So it's starting from something real and then building some complexity into it. So once you've done that and you've done a photo collage of a couple of different images, then you can move on and do more and more complex things. So the next thing that is absolutely important is to see camera projection work on a demo reel. So we're going to be talking about, because you can either see that in a shot context, so you can do a matte painting that with a moving camera, and there's the method for having that matte painting in that shot is through camera projections, or you can do something like a camera projection study where you take an object, you take photographs of it, and you project those images onto a surface, and you have a layered system that you've done in Nuke. So like the kinds of projections that we'd be looking for is like nested projections, coverage projections, patch projections, and layered projections. So you can either do that within the context of a shot, or you can show us that you have camera projection ability by doing it in like a little bit of a study where you are identify an object, take the photos, project it onto mesh, and then have a 3D camera moving so that you can see that whole, how all of those layered projections are working. And what's really great is any kind of matte painting shot work. So that's either like you get some film footage and the camera is static, so it's not moving, but you have moving elements within it, and then you integrate something into that, or it's a full, moving camera and you have to do camera projections, which is a bit more complex. But the idea here is that you are able to take your matte painting DMP ability and apply it into some film footage, which is really valuable for us to be able to see your skills. And so, and actually, I would recommend if you're at that point where you're like, I'm ready for the next thing, I want to do matte painting shot work, then maybe get a hold of some independent filmmakers and see if you can put in some time with them, and then you have access to all of their film footage and things like that. And because it is an actual real production, you can there's a bit of production value, like in the shot that you're working, like you've got actors or something like that. So that would be a pretty good way of doing that. And really, like any kind of asset work that you can show, and you'll want to put all the asset work right at the end of your demo reel. So put all your relevant DMP work at the beginning of your demo reel. At the end, we'd like to see any kind of asset work that you've done. So that's hard surface modeling and texturing or organic modeling, and any kind of like image-based modeling or photogrammetry is really great stuff. And so that's where you would kind of show us some of your Mari work and that kind of stuff. So because all of that asset kind of work for environments is very, very relevant to what we do. And lastly, it's any other kind of generalist work. So right at the end, you can put in any of your look dev work, your lighting work, your compositing, your rendering, and that kind of shows us that the breadth of your skill set. And if you can tag that in on the end, it kind of just shows us that how well-rounded you are. And just kind of to wrap this up, because for me, matte painting has always been a passion, and if you don't mind me just telling just a little bit of a personal experience, like when I first started as going to university, I was actually in a graphic design program, and I loved graphic design, and I still do actually. And I got a little bit far into that program, and I came to the realization one day that it wasn't going to be hard enough for me and I wanted something that was going to be really hard, that I'm going to spend like my whole life trying to master, and it's going to keep me really, really engaged. And so, and I said, well, you know, film is really, really hard to get into. And so I said to myself, I'm going to take that on. And actually making that decision has been just amazing for me, because I love the job. You know, being a matte painter and an environment artist and a matte painting generalist are really, you know, without, you know, of course, I'm maybe a little bit biased, but I feel like it is the best job, one of the best jobs in the VFX industry. And so, but it does represent a ton of work, a ton of work before you get into the academy to prepare your demo reel, and it represents a ton of work when you get into the academy to try to get on the floor. And so, but always that work, and we've seen it in the academy. The last two academies that we've run, is that hard work really pays off. And so, just as a last quote from the book Grit, that it says, "There are no shortcuts to excellence. Developing real expertise, figuring out really hard problems, it all takes time, longer than most people imagine. Grit is about working on something you care about so much that you're willing to stay loyal to it. It's doing what you love, but not just falling in love, staying in love." So, and like I said, I'm really looking forward to getting to know more of you, and hopefully we'll be able to see you in the academy, and that you'll be thinking about right now. And that's really the reason why we're having this webinar right now, is because we want people to have enough lead time before the academy starts and before we start accepting applications, that you will be prepared for that time. So yes, so I can turn the time over to Glenn and Matt in London.
Thanks, Garrett. Pretty comprehensive rundown of pretty much everything there. I mean, we've had quite a few questions in. That we know there's people tuning in from around the globe today. Alina, I wonder, it might be worth just quickly telling everyone how they apply, and you know, how that process is, and you know, where they go to. Maybe just give a quick rundown on that.
Sure. So hi guys, my name's Alina. I'm from the talent acquisition team here at MPC, based in Montreal. So if you see that we have a DMP Academy FAQs handout, that's the best place to start if you ever have any questions, basic questions on how to apply and all that stuff. We will start taking application around beginning of January. The DMP Academy starts, I think it was mid-April of next year. There's plenty of time for you to start working on your demo reel. And let's see if I can open this. So some basic questions that I get a lot is, you know, if we have any questions, like, can we email you right away? Well, in that handout as well, like, there should be an address to contact us. It's if not, it's just talent@mpc.jobs. If you ever have any questions about your application, or if you want to apply directly, you can email us, and the recruiter in charge will be in touch with you. And another thing, very common question is, am I eligible to apply? So we will offer the DMP Academy in Montreal only. So it only also happens once a year. So you basically only have one chance per year to apply the Academy. Therefore, it's really important that you follow Garrett's guidelines and take a look at the presentation again later to see what we're looking for, and be as on point as you can. And if you ever have any work in progress, like you can also send us your demo reel and ask for feedback. We'd be happy to have a look at your reel, right, Garrett? Mm-hmm. And he'll have a look at the reels himself, and he'll be able to help you a bit further. I would be happy to do that for you. But don't be afraid to apply. If you're not ready to show us your best, you can still mention to us that your work is in progress still, and we'll take that into consideration when we look at your demo reels. So eligibility to apply. Since we are located, since the DMP Academy is going to be in Montreal, there are a little bit of requirements in terms of getting a work permit. If we do hire you, we are able to sponsor you in regards to your work permit application. But we take it case by case. So it's if you're unsure if you're eligible or not for a work permit, you can definitely just email talent@mpc.jobs and let us know your situation, and we'll see if we can help you or not. But for sure, it's open for obviously any Canadians or anyone who have Canadian PRs. If you're internationals from Europe, we can take a look at your application as well. If you're an American citizen and you have a bachelor's degree, it's very easy to get a work permit for Canada, so that's not a problem there. What else? We've hired candidates from Mexico as well, so anywhere in the world really. We just need to know. We'll just take it case by case, so don't be afraid to ask us if you're eligible or not.
Thanks, Celine. I think that's a really good rundown of the application process. And you mentioned the handout which you prepared, which we'll circulate to everybody, so they've got that to take away with all the key facts on it. One of the questions that came in, Garrett, was about the fact that you mentioned earlier that the academy is for people who are just graduating from uni or from school, but also we take on matte painters who maybe are working at some smaller studios. How does that correlate in terms of, maybe Matt, you've got something to talk about that as well, just in terms of, are you looking for potential with the artists that we employ? Because surely, with guys who've maybe done or guys and girls who've done a year or 2 years experience somewhere else, won't necessarily be at the same skill level as somebody coming out straight from college.
Yeah, that's an interesting question, actually, and I see that popping up in the questions box. We have had successful academy applicants who have gone through the training and been very successful in production from both backgrounds. People who have come to us straight from education and people who have some experience in small studios. The people who have some experience in small studios, obviously they start off much quicker, they find it easier to get up to speed in most cases. Actually, funnily enough, they sometimes don't have as broad a skills range. Their skills have been more focused on matte painting, for example. Garrett, what do you think, your experience of training those guys?
I think that a lot has to do with the program. The program that you're graduating from. So if you have a really strong program and you're looking at that program and you're comparing that to what the requirements for the reel are, or what other people that have gotten to the academy their reels are, but you can kind of do an analysis and say, this is where my program is at, and then you have to identify where the gaps are in your education, and you kind of have to fill those gaps. And so that's either working with your school while you're in school, and I always had success when I went to university that I went to my professors and I said, this is really what I want to do. Are you okay with me amending the curriculum a little bit, and I'm going to do twice as much work? And usually 90% of the time they loved that, and then you're kind of taking control, the reins of your education. And so really it's you have to do that analysis, figure out where the gaps are in your education, and then figure out a solution to fill those gaps. And that's where if you're at a program that you're poorly trained, and that's an unfortunate circumstance because it's very expensive to go to university. And then you graduate, and then you say, I'm graduated from a university program, and this is my degree, and then therefore I am qualified to enter in the academy. That's not always the case. So it's important to get that education, but what we're looking at is your skill set and reflected in a demo reel.
So Garrett, really in the presentation you ran through pretty much all of the required skills that make up the complete skills profile that we look for, the software, the kind of work that people should have done in the past. And I think for people who are considering applying, if you're looking through that list that Garrett ran through and going, oh, perhaps I'm a little weak in this area or that area, we should talk about ways between now and April of 2017 that they can fill in and really level up their skills profile so as to be in the best position to maybe get a place in the academy.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, there's some really it's a bit difficult sometimes with DMP because there's not a ton of resources out there. But if you take that software list, for example, and you kind of like custom make like a program for yourself, let's say it's for Photoshop, and you were to go through the available you know, learning resources that are online right now. If you're going to digital tutors or to Gnomon Workshop or FXPHD or any of these CG, you know, any of these programs that teach these software, that you can say, okay, well, like let's say digital tutors, I can this doesn't exactly relate to what I'm going to be doing as a DMP artist, but it's going to teach me how to use the software. And so really between now and when the academy starts, like that should be a part of your focus, is to learn and have a really good understanding of the software and how it's being used. And then, like I said, you know, within the academy, we're going to teach you how to, you know, how DMP artists use that software, which is, you know, can be very different at some point, you know, in some cases, but having that foundation and kind of like custom building out like a learning track for yourself, and either you can do that with online resources or you can go, you know, to your professors or whoever, or, you know, get into a mentorship with a DMP artist or something like that. You know, there's a bunch of those options, you know, if you kind of dig into it. As far as online, so that would be one option, to kind of like custom make something for you based on like what, you know, the information that you get in this webinar about what needs to be in your demo reel. But then you can also take, you know, specific online courses that are for DMP, like CG Society. I have seen a couple of the applicants take like a course from Heather Abels, which has been good. And I have my own online course for camera projections from the Matte Painting for Filmmakers course. So there's a bunch of, you know, there's a bunch of online learning resources. I mean, MPC doesn't, you know, we can't officially, you know, sponsor any of those programs, but it's, you know, they're there and available. And so you can kind of like, while you're going on your search, you know, kick the tires of some of those online courses and things and see if it's right for you and your position. So that's what I would recommend.
Really, the Matte Painting for Filmmakers site ticks pretty much all of the boxes, and it can be used as a good place to check and see how well does my skills profile compared with everything that program touches on, and you can kind of use that as a checkbox. And you know, it is a good one-stop shop for all of the skills that we look for. And as Garrett says, you can also, if you're looking at online resources, custom build from various suppliers or vendors of online VFX training your own program, or engage with your professors at university. And there's a lot of time left. I mean, we're talking about the middle of April 2017, and I see a couple of people asking in the questions box, if they're not ready, can they apply again? We only run one DMP Academy per year, so there'll only be one in 2017. The next one would be in 2018. Similar questions about for how long will MPC commit to this DMP Academy program? Well, indefinitely, as long as it serves the dual needs of aspiring student, trainee, DMP artists out there in the world who want to break into film, and as long as MPC requires DMP artists.
And I would kind of add on that, if you find yourself and you're like, hey, I'm actually graduating in like maybe 2 years, or I'm a bit farther out on my graduation, or I'm committed to something and I can't necessarily jump into that right away. Like I would recommend you be preparing for the academy, like even now, and let's say, for some reason, some scenario where it's not available to you, you are still going to come out with a really good skills profile, because if you're preparing for the academy, you're really preparing for an entry-level role within any studio. And so, so that's where it's good to be close to MPC and to know what MPC is doing, and to be a part of these webinars and to know what's going on and to be getting feedback, because it's always going to be pushing you in the right area where you need to be to get that entry-level job.
We've got, thanks, Garrett. We've got a lot of people tuning in from around the world who just might be worth recapping the visa situation, Alina, and the fact that we do accept applications from around the world, and that we do support the visa process for candidates who we accept onto the academy.
Yeah, so that's right. So again, there's a DMP Academy FAQ, frequently asked questions handout, that you can find attached in this presentation. All the details are explained there, but a quick rundown. Yes, we do take applications from international applicants from anywhere in the world. We'll have to take it case by case. So in any case, if you apply with us, we will ask you directly what is your situation, what is your citizenship, and where you're located, and all that stuff, and we'll be able to tell you if we can sponsor you once we find out a little bit more about your position.
Okay,
yeah.
okay. I think that's a really good recap, Alina. And as you said, we will make sure that everybody gets a copy of the FAQ. So we've tried to cover off as many of the questions that are coming up this afternoon with our FAQs. A couple of questions that are coming in with regards to the applications that come in. Does everybody receive feedback on their applications in terms of what they've done, how they can improve?
We try our best to follow up with every applicant that we're in touch with. We also try our best to respond to every single applicant, but I just want to note that please be patient, because we do get a lot of applicants on a daily basis, so it may take us quite some time to respond to you, but we will get back to you as much as we can. And if you have any questions, we would be happy to address them as well. In terms of feedback, if we interview you, we try to give every single interviewee's feedback after the interview stage. During screening process, if you really want specific feedback, you can ask us or ask the recruiter who's going to be in touch with you for feedback. And the feedback will most likely come from Garrett, because he's going to be the one who to review the work. So it won't come from us directly, but we will be the one forwarding the feedback to you.
And we've had a couple of questions from guys in the UK who are obviously familiar with MPC being a studio in London as well, and the Academy is based in Montreal. If these junior artists don't want to get into the Academy in Montreal, or they're not ready to do that, what are the opportunities in the UK to get into DMP?
So if you are based in the UK and you're not open to moving to Montreal or applying for the MPC Academy in Montreal, then you can just go to our website. It's also in the FAQ. It's www.mpc.jobs, and you can go there and you can apply directly in the DMP, the 3D DMP application page there, and they'll just apply as a junior artist, because in London we do have junior artists. It's just in Canada for the time being. So you can apply directly, and the recruiter of that department will get in touch with you should your profile suit what we're looking for in London. So you can do that.
Yeah, and I would just maybe add for Montreal, like if you're kind of like on the edge of being actually able to be entered into MPC Montreal as directly into the department, or going through the academy, I think there's just a huge advantage to where you're going to be at after 3 months of training that is a bit priceless. And so if you're like, oh, I could go directly into the department and start working on shows right now, we're talking specifically for Montreal. You could also look at the academy as an option because there you will be upskilled and you'll be even a better artist after those 3 months. But I think it's also one of those like case by case basis, and you can be in contact with recruitment about that kind of question.
Brilliant. Okay. There's quite a few more questions coming in. We had a question in from Oscar who was asking about his experience as a video game environment prop artist. He's worked mainly in game and game production and design. Graduate from Full Sail University of Florida, who we are very familiar with. He wanted to know whether his 3D game generalist skills would transfer from games into film.
Actually, they do, because my experience with like environment artists from the game industry is that they're crazy fast at what they do, and they're very resourceful because like they're working on a lot of different environments, and some of those environments don't really support or give them all the necessary tools to do their job, and so they just kind of turn out to be these very resourceful and fast artists. And so yeah, I would say in that respect, yeah, it does. And where you're working with 3D DMP, and you may have a shot where you have a real hero, let's say a hero building that's in the foreground, and then after a certain point, there's more buildings that go on off into the background. Well, those buildings in the background shouldn't be the same quality as the building in the foreground. And so at some point, you're saying, I need to build a cheaper, more efficient asset that can be duplicated, hundreds of times and still be able to render. And so that's actually where some of that like being efficient in the way that you build models can actually really be an asset for you in the department.
And we had a question in from Jack, who wanted to know about how do concept art skills translate to map painting?
I'm sorry, what art skills?
Concept. If someone's skill as a concept artist, how might they use their skills in DMP?
Yes. So that's a very good question. So the people who are doing concept art, I've worked with a bunch of concept artists and kind of helping them make the transition into being DMP. Some of the things that they have a hard time with is that they have a painting style or the way that they work with Photoshop that they're comfortable with, which is pretty fast and loose, and it's because it's concept art, right? So when they translate that skill set into doing DMP work, they often have a hard time with working under the technical restraints that they have to work under in order to do map painting work. Something as simple as breaking your file out into layers, is sometimes difficult for a concept artist to manage because they're duplicating layers and painting on top and painting on top, and they don't have a real strict organization. And so when you're doing DMP work, it is very organized, very structured, the way that you build things, and sometimes that's hard for concept artists to do. Also, a hard thing for concept artists sometimes is that they will sometimes jump into hand painting things too early. So everything that we do has a photographic base to it. So really the kind of skill set that you should be nurturing is a photo collage skill set. And if you have that photo collage skill set, and then you have that as a really strong foundation, and then you on the very last bit, that's when you're doing your paint work, that's a much better, or that is the way that it should be done. So, but concept artists, they're so used to doing the paint work that before they've found that they have a real strong photographic base, they'll jump into paint work right away, and the result is that it's very, very hard to have the kind of crispness, the photographic realism that comes with photography. And so my experience is that those concept artists, a lot of their work looks a bit mushy and not photoreal and tight, you know. And I know that matte painting came from a history of painters, but now the technology has changed, and every paint stroke is going to be revealed on the big screen. So your work has to be absolutely perfect, actually, and you have to be quite meticulous about it. So it's a very different a mindset, and so that's where I'd say, if you are a concept artist, the thing that you should be nurturing is doing photo collage work and focusing on light and color and value and perspective, because all of those are really, really important skills for a DMP artist.
And along the same lines, Garrett, Octavia wants to know, he's skilled as a compositor. I mean, you mentioned earlier, and clearly we use Nuke as part of the whole overall academy program. Is someone trained as a compositor sort of set up well for transferring to DMP?
Yeah, so like if you are a compositor, you are well versed in really the primary, in addition to Photoshop, it's really like you're gonna, as a DMP artist, you're gonna spend most of your time in Photoshop and in Nuke. And so that skill set as a compositor is really valuable to you. And actually the thing that a compositor should really be focusing on is learning that projection skill set, or the projection tool set that's within Nuke. So if you're not familiar with how projections work, you already know the tool really well, and so jumping into projections using the same tool that you know really well is going to be a much easier step for you. And then you have all of this experience that you have as a compositor that you can bring in to the department. The other missing area that you're going to need to nurture and to represent on a demo reel is, like I said, the photo collage integration part. But you know, even as a concept art, or excuse me, as a compositor, you've developed your eye in such a way in order to be a compositor to integrate things, and it's that skill set that's really, really important. You just have to extend that into taking different photographs within Photoshop and mixing them together and getting to know that skill set. So it is very valuable to, if you're coming as a compositor, and that experience is really appreciated. You do have to fill out the rest of your skill set and figure out which areas that are weak and start working on those.
On a practical note, Garrett, Alice wants to know what sort of picture quality they need to create their demo reel in. Does it need to be 4K? From the thought we're quite at that stage yet. But and also, is there a preferred platform to put demo reels on, Vimeo versus YouTube, or?
For me, it doesn't really. I mean, when I'm looking at demo reels and stuff, it doesn't really matter what the platform is as far as how you deliver your demo reel to us. I think that it's important then that you know the platform that you are delivering it on has resolution restrictions, and so you know, with YouTube and Vimeo, really it's just kind of like HD that they deliver things in, which is totally fine to do that in HD. When you're doing your DMP work, you need to make sure that it's actually 1.5 or twice the resolution as the output, like on YouTube. So if YouTube is HD, when you're doing your paint work within Photoshop, you should be working at twice that resolution. And there's several reasons why that you should do that, and it's because it's to make sure that when you get in there tight and close in your DMP, that you may use a little bit of painterly strokes, but when you zoom out, it gets really sharp. And so that's actually any type of DMP work that you're doing. If the show is 2K or 2,000 pixels wide, then all of the DMP work is 4,000 pixels at least, to that we're creating matte paintings that have enough of that photographic integrity that it will hold up in the film. Because also, anytime you're doing projection work as well, you go through a projection system like within Nuke, and there's a filtering that happens on the DMP. So so if you start out sharp when you're projecting, and then it goes through the renderer, then it softens it a little bit, and it's just better that it starts out at higher resolution. So I guess just to cap that, if you're doing HD on YouTube or Vimeo, then your DMP work should be twice that resolution, so that you have enough sharpness and detail, and it doesn't come out to be fuzzy.
Brilliant. Okay, thanks, Garrett. I'm just conscious of the fact that we're probably almost out of time, and just to say we've had quite a few questions in. What we'll try and do is take any of them offline and answer as many as possible as we can. Alina mentioned earlier the email address for the talent team, which is talent@mpc.jobs. So if you do feel that you haven't had any your question answered tonight, do feel free to drop us a note, and we'll try and answer any of those offline. And that's where you apply for the roles as well. I don't know, Matt, if you want to say anything just to sum up.
Yeah. Right, so we have a fair few months left of lead time, so please do, if you're interested, if you've watched this webinar and you think that this is where you want to aim yourself, please do check your skills profile against our requirements as described by Garrett. Drop us a line if you've got any questions. Check out some of the online resources, and then get your application in. As Alina said, we get a lot of applicants, so it can take a little while for us to get back to you, but we will get back to you. Everybody will hear back from us, and then we'll start interviewing in months to come, and we'll go from there. And hopefully we'll see many of you in mid-April of 2017. Montreal's lovely at that time of year. It's spring, and the whole town gets very lively, and I think we'll have a good time, and we'll learn a lot, obviously. Bear in mind that it is a one-year contract. So we're talking here about the academy, which is 12 weeks or 3 months long. But the length of the contract that we're talking about is a one-year contract to work in the Montreal studio.
Brilliant. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. I think we'll wrap it up there. Do get your applications in, and hope you found that useful tonight. Say bye to Garrett and Alina in Montreal.
Yep.
Take care.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone. Cheers. Bye.